The massive chamber of the Galactic Council stretched out like a giant bowl carved from crystal and metal. Hundreds of seats rose in circles around the central speaking platform, each one filled with representatives from different worlds across the galaxy. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime as dozens of alien languages mixed together into one confusing buzz of sound. Ambassador Lisa Martinez sat in the human section, her dark blue uniform looking plain compared to the colorful robes and strange outfits worn by the other delegates. She had been Earth's voice in this council for 3 years now, but today felt different. Today felt like trouble. The holographic display above the center platform showed the words, Resolution 4471B, in bright red letters. Lisa knew what those words meant. They meant the end of humanity's dreams of joining the galaxy's military forces. Commander Vextar of the Zeltharian Empire stood at the speaking platform. His tall gray body moved with the grace of someone who had never doubted his own importance. The golden symbols on his chest marked him as one of the most powerful military leaders in the galaxy. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of 1,000 victories. Fellow council members, Vextar began, his words translated instantly into every language in the chamber. Today we must make a difficult but necessary decision. The species known as humans have requested to join our Galactic Defense Initiative. However, their record speaks for itself. The holographic display changed to show images from Earth's history. Wars, explosions, and fighting filled the air above their heads. Lisa's hands tightened into fists as she watched her people's worst moments being displayed for all to see. Look at their past, Vextar continued, pointing at the images. They fight each other constantly. They use primitive weapons that throw metal projectiles instead of elegant energy beams. They make decisions based on emotions rather than logic. How can we trust such beings with the defense of our civilized worlds? Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Lisa heard the clicking sounds that meant the insect-like Corinthians were approving, and the deep rumbling that showed the rock-based granite folk were nodding along. The Corinthian delegate, a creature that looked like a walking stick with many arms, rose from his seat. The Zeltharian commander speaks wisdom, he said in a voice like breaking glass. We have watched the humans for many cycles. They lack the mental discipline required for proper military service. Their minds are chaotic, unpredictable. They would be a danger to any organized defense force. More agreement echoed through the chamber. Lisa felt her heart sinking as one after another, the alien representatives voiced their support for keeping humans out of the galactic military. The ethereal collective spokesperson, a being made of pure energy contained in a crystal shell, floated forward. The humans fight like wild animals. They have no understanding of sophisticated strategy. Their ships use crude chemical propulsion when they could use elegant gravitic drives. They are simply too primitive for modern warfare. Lisa stood up, her chair sliding back with a soft hiss. The chamber fell quiet as all eyes turned to her. She was small compared to most of the aliens around her, but she had learned to make her voice carry in this vast space. Honored delegates, she began, trying to keep her voice steady. I ask you to look beyond our past mistakes. Yes, humans have fought wars, but we have also learned from them. We have grown. We have developed new ways of thinking about conflict and cooperation. She activated her own holographic display, showing images of human rescue missions, peacekeeping forces, and cooperative space projects. We offer something unique to the galactic community. Our experience with different types of conflict has taught us to adapt quickly. We think outside the box when others follow standard procedures. Commander Vextar made a sound like laughter, but colder. Adaptation? You mean chaos. You mean unpredictable behavior that could endanger entire fleets. The defense initiative requires order, discipline, and proven methods. Humans have none of these qualities. The delegate from the crystalline hierarchy, a being that looked like a walking diamond, chimed in with a voice like ringing bells. The human's emotional nature makes them unreliable. In battle, emotions lead to mistakes. Mistakes lead to defeat. We cannot risk the safety of the galaxy on such unstable minds. Lisa felt the weight of the chamber's disapproval pressing down on her. but she had come too far to give up now. Our emotions are not a weakness. They are a strength. They drive us to protect others, to never give up, to find solutions when logic says there are none. The galaxy needs that kind of thinking. The galaxy needs proven warriors, Vextar replied sharply. Not emotional creatures who might panic at the first sign of danger. This discussion has gone on long enough. I call for the vote. The chambers. AI announced the voting procedure in dozens of languages at once. Lisa watched as the representatives began casting their votes on their personal displays. Red lights appeared one by one on the main board, each one representing a vote against humanity. She tried not to count them, but the numbers were impossible to ignore. The Zeltharian Empire voted against humans. The Corinthian Collective voted against humans. The Ethereal Alliance voted against humans. One by one, the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy rejected Earth's application to join their military forces. When the counting finished, the results appeared in giant numbers above the chamber. Against human membership, 847 votes. In favor, 23 votes. The margin was not even close. Resolution 4471B passes by overwhelming majority, the AI announced. The species known as humans are hereby barred from participation in the Galactic Defense Initiative due to their demonstrated instability and primitive military capabilities. The chamber erupted in discussion as delegates began filing out. Lisa remained in her seat, staring at the numbers that had just changed everything for her people. Around her, she could hear fragments of conversation as the aliens discussed their decision. A wise choice, someone was saying. Those humans would have been nothing but trouble. Did you see their weapons? Metal bullets. How quaint. Better to keep them on their little blue planet where they cannot harm anyone important. Lisa finally stood up and gathered her materials. Her hands shook slightly as she put her notes into her briefcase. 3 years of careful diplomacy, 3 years of building relationships and proving humanity's worth had all been destroyed in one afternoon. As she walked toward the exit, Commander Vextar stepped into her path. Up close, his gray skin had a metallic sheen, and his eyes were the color of liquid mercury. "Do not take this personally, Ambassador Martinez," he said in a voice that suggested he did not really care how she took it. "Your species simply is not ready for the responsibilities of galactic defense. Perhaps in a few hundred years, when you have evolved beyond your current limitations, we can revisit this decision." Lisa looked up at him, meeting his cold gaze directly. "Commander, I hope you never have cause to regret this decision, but if you do, remember that we offered to help." She walked past him and out of the chamber, leaving behind the sound of alien voices celebrating their victory over human ambition. Behind her, the holographic display still showed the voting results, the red numbers glowing like a warning that none of them understood. 6 months had passed since the vote that changed everything for humanity. The news had spread across Earth like wildfire, and the reaction was exactly what Lisa Martinez had feared. Anger, shame, and determination mixed together in a dangerous combination that kept the planet's leaders awake at night. Admiral Jake Sullivan stood in the command center of Luna Base, staring at the screens that showed ships moving through the solar system. His weathered face carried the weight of 40 years in the military, and his gray hair was cut in the same style he had worn since his academy days. The rejection by the Galactic Council had hit him harder than most, but it had also given him a new purpose. "Show me the latest reports from the outer colonies," he said to the young officer beside him. Lieutenant Katie Williams pulled up the data on her tablet. She was fresh out of the academy, with bright eyes and an eager smile that reminded Jake of himself many years ago. "Sir, all our deep space monitoring stations are running at full capacity. We have early warning systems placed at every major jump point leading to Earth." Jake nodded slowly. The truth was that Earth's defenses were better than most people knew. While the aliens had been busy laughing at human technology, Earth's engineers had been working day and night to improve their systems. They might not have fancy energy weapons, but they had something else. They had the determination of a species that refused to be pushed around. Captain Ryan Carter walked into the command center, his uniform still carrying the smell of engine oil from the shipyards. He was one of the best pilots in the Earth Defense Force, and his team had been testing new ship designs for months. "Admiral, the new fighter squadrons are ready for testing. We have incorporated some interesting modifications based on our analysis of alien technology." "Good," Jake replied. "Show me what you have learned." Ryan activated a holographic display that showed the design of their latest fighter craft. It looked different from the sleek alien ships they had seen in the council chambers. Where alien, ships were smooth and curved. Human ships had angles and edges. Where alien ships relied on energy shields, human ships used thick armor plating. "The aliens think our technology is primitive," Ryan explained, pointing to different parts of the ship. "But primitive can be an advantage. Our ships are harder to disable with electromagnetic pulses. Our kinetic weapons do not require power from the main engines. If our systems fail, we can still fight." Katie looked up from her monitoring station. "Sir, I'm picking up some strange readings from the outer rim sectors. The energy signatures do not match any known ship types in our database." Jake walked over to look at her screen. The data showed faint energy traces that appeared and disappeared like ghosts in the darkness of space. "How long have you been tracking these signals?" "About 2 weeks, sir. I sent the information to the Galactic Defense Network, but they dismissed. It has sensor errors. They said our equipment is too crude to provide reliable data." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He had learned to trust his instincts over the years, and right now his instincts were screaming that something was wrong. "Double-check all our sensor networks. If there is something out there, I want to know about it." Meanwhile, in another part of Luna Base, Dr. Amanda Foster was working late in her laboratory. She was the head of the Tactical Research Division, a group that most people did not know existed. Her job was to study unconventional warfare methods and find ways to give Earth an advantage against superior technology. Amanda was small and quiet, the kind of person who could disappear in a crowd. But her mind was sharp as a blade, and she had been thinking about the alien rejection for months. The more she studied alien military tactics, the more she realized they all followed similar patterns. "Computer, show me the battle records from the last Zeltharian campaign," she said to the AI system. The holographic display showed a space battle between the Zeltharians and a rebel group. Amanda watched as the alien ships moved in perfect formation, their energy weapons firing in coordinated patterns. It was beautiful to watch, like a deadly dance performed by masters of their craft. But Amanda saw something else. She saw predictability. The aliens fought like they had been trained in the same schools, using the same textbooks, following the same rules. Their tactics were perfect, but they were also limited. "Computer, run a simulation. Show me what would happen if the rebel forces used random attack patterns instead of standard military formations." The simulation ran, and Amanda smiled for the first time in weeks. The random attacks confused the Zeltharian ships, forcing them to break formation and react instead of following their planned strategies. It was not a perfect solution, but it was a start. Across the galaxy, the aliens were having their own conversations about humanity. In the crystal palaces of the ethereal, collective beings of pure energy discussed the amusing news from Earth. "The humans are angry about our decision," one of them said, its voice like the sound of wind through crystal chimes. "They have withdrawn from most cultural exchanges and trade agreements." "Let them sulk," another replied. "They will realize, eventually, that they need us more than we need them. Their primitive technology cannot sustain them forever." On the Corinthian homeworld, the insect-like creatures were spreading jokes about humanity through their communication networks. The jokes were not kind. They made fun of human emotions, human appearance, and human technology. The most popular joke was about a human trying to fight a Corinthian warrior with a metal sword, while the warrior used an energy blade. But the jokes were not just harmless fun. They were spreading a dangerous idea throughout the galaxy. The idea that humans were weak, stupid, and harmless. The idea that they could be ignored. Commander Vextar was in his private chambers on the Zeltharian flagship, reviewing reports. From across the Empire, his people were expanding into new territories, building new colonies, and strengthening their military forces. Everything was going according to plan. He had almost forgotten about the humans entirely until his aide brought him a communication from Earth. It was a formal protest about the Council's decision, signed by Admiral Jake Sullivan himself. Vextar read the message with amusement. The humans were demanding a review of the decision, claiming that they had valuable contributions to make to galactic defense. They even had the audacity to suggest that the galaxy might face threats that required human-style thinking. Pathetic, Vextar said aloud, deleting the message without responding. They still do not understand their place in the universe. Back on Earth, Admiral Jake Sullivan was standing in a secure conference room with the planet's top military leaders. General Patricia Hayes sat at the head of the table, her stern expression making it clear that this was not a social gathering. Aliens have made their position clear, she said. They do not want our help, and they do not respect our capabilities. But that does not mean we stop preparing for the day when they might need us. Captain Ryan Carter leaned forward. General, our new ship designs are ready for mass production. We can have a full fleet operational within 6 months. Do it, Patricia replied. I want every shipyard in the system working around the clock. If trouble comes, I want us ready to respond. Dr. Amanda Foster cleared her throat. General, I believe I have identified some weaknesses in alien military doctrine. Their reliance on energy weapons and standardized tactics makes them vulnerable to unconventional attacks. Explain, Patricia said. Amanda activated her presentation, showing the simulation results she had been working on. Alien forces expect their enemies to fight according to established military principles. They prepare for logical, predictable battles. But humans have a history of winning through chaos, surprise, and emotional decision-making. You mean we should fight dirty? Ryan said with a grin. I mean we should fight human, Amanda replied. We should use our strengths instead of trying to copy their weaknesses. General Patricia Hayes stood up, her decision made. We will continue our preparations. We will improve our technology and train our forces. And when the time comes, we will show the galaxy what humanity can do. None of them knew that time was running out faster than they imagined. In the darkness between stars, ancient machines were stirring to life, preparing to test every assumption the galaxy had about warfare, survival, and the value of being underestimated. The first attack came without warning on a peaceful Tuesday morning in the Zeltharian home system. Commander Vextar was reviewing routine patrol reports when every alarm in the command center started screaming at once. Sir, we have massive energy. Signatures dropping out of hyperspace, his communications officer shouted over the noise. Multiple contacts, unknown configuration. They are huge. Vextar moved to the main display screen, his confident expression quickly changing to confusion, and then fear. The ships that appeared on his sensors were unlike anything in the galactic database. They were black as space itself, covered in strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift and move even as he watched them. How many? He asked, his voice steady despite the ice forming in his stomach. Scanning now, sir. Estimated count is, this cannot be right, over 3,000 vessels ranging from frigate-sized to, sir, some of these ships are larger than our space stations. The largest ship in the enemy fleet was a monster that dwarfed everything around it. It stretched for kilometers in every direction, its surface covered with weapons that glowed with an evil red light. Smaller ships swarmed around it like angry insects moving in patterns that made no sense to traditional military thinking. Send a message to all fleet commanders, Vextar ordered. Full defensive positions, activate all planetary shields, and send a priority alert to the Galactic Council. We are under attack by unknown forces. The enemy ships did not wait for diplomatic contact. They opened fire immediately, their weapons cutting through space with beams of energy that seemed to eat light itself. The first Zeltharian ships to engage were destroyed so quickly that their crews did not even have time to send distress signals. Vextar watched in horror as his most advanced battleships, the pride of the Zeltharian fleet, were torn apart like paper toys. His energy shields, which had protected his people for centuries, lasted only seconds against the enemy weapons. Sir, the enemy is adapting, his tactical officer reported, fear clear in his voice. Every time we change our attack patterns, they adjust their defenses. It is like they are learning from us in real time. The battle that followed was not really a battle at all. It was a demonstration of how advanced technology could become useless when faced with something even more advanced. The Zeltharian fleet threw everything they had at the enemy, but nothing worked. Energy weapons were absorbed and redirected. Missile attacks were intercepted by defense systems that seemed to predict where each missile would go. Within 6 hours, the Zeltharian home fleet was destroyed. The proud ships that had enforced peace across dozens of star systems were nothing but glowing debris floating in space. The enemy, which the survivors would later call the Harbingers, began attacking the planets themselves. The news spread across the galaxy faster than the speed of light, carried by emergency communications, networks that had never been used for anything this terrible. In the crystal spires of the ethereal collective, beings of pure energy watched the reports with growing panic. "This is impossible," one of them said, its voice like breaking glass. "The Zeltharians have the most advanced military in the galaxy. How could they be defeated so easily?" The answer came 3 days later when the Harbingers attacked the Corinthian system. The insect-like creatures had prepared for battle, studying the Zeltharian defeat and adjusting their tactics accordingly. They spread their fleet in loose formations, used unpredictable attack patterns, and even tried some of the chaotic methods they had seen in human military records. It made no difference. The Harbingers adapted to every change, every new strategy, every desperate attempt to find a weakness. The Corinthian fleet lasted 8 hours instead of 6, but the result was the same: complete destruction. The Harbinger ships were not just weapons. They were learning machines, artificial intelligences that had been perfecting the art of war for millions of years. Every battle made them stronger. Every defeat of their enemies added to their knowledge. They had awakened from their long sleep, in the dark spaces between galaxies with one purpose: to cleanse the universe of all organic life. On Earth, Lieutenant Katie Williams was monitoring the emergency communications when the first reports came in. She had been tracking those strange energy signatures for weeks, and now she understood what they had been. "Admiral Sullivan, you need to see this," she called out, her voice tight with fear. Jake Sullivan hurried to her station, reading the reports, over her shoulder. His face went pale as he realized what he was seeing. "Get me a secure channel to the Galactic Council immediately." The call took several minutes to connect. When Ambassador Lisa Martinez appeared on the screen, she looked like she had not slept in days. Behind her, Jake could see the chaos of the council chambers, with alien delegates running in all directions. "Jake, thank God," Lisa said. "The situation. We need help. The entire galaxy is under attack by something we do not understand." "We know," Jake replied. "Our sensors have been tracking them for weeks. We tried to warn the defense network, but they dismissed our reports." Lisa closed her eyes for a moment. "The Zeltharian fleet is gone. The Corinthians are falling back to their core worlds. Commander Vexistar he asked me to contact you. He wants to know if Earth can provide any assistance." Jake felt no satisfaction in being right. The situation was too serious for petty emotions. "What do we know about these Harbingers?" "Not much. They seem to be artificial intelligences, possibly millions of years old. Their technology is far beyond anything we have ever seen. They adapt to our tactics in real time, learning from every engagement. Every time we try something new, they counter it within minutes." Dr. Amanda Foster appeared at Jake's shoulder, having heard the conversation. "Admiral, request permission to speak with the ambassador." Jake nodded and Amanda stepped forward. "Ambassador Martinez, I have been studying alien military tactics for months. The problem is that everyone in the galaxy fights the same way. You all follow the same basic principles, use similar strategies. If these Harbingers are learning machines, they only need to understand one approach to counter all of them." "What are you suggesting?" Lisa asked. "I am suggesting that maybe it is time to try something different, something unpredictable, something human." On the screen, they could see Lisa turning to speak with someone off camera. When she turned back, her expression was desperate. "Amanda, the Council has authorized me to ask for Earth's assistance. We know about the ban, but—" "The ban is meaningless now," Jake interrupted. "If these things destroy the galaxy, there will not be anyone left to enforce it." Captain Ryan Carter had been listening from across the command center. He stepped forward, his face grim but determined. "Admiral, the new fleet is ready. We have 40 ships with full crews and supplies for extended operations." Jake looked around at his staff, seeing the same determination in every face. They had been preparing for something like this, even though they had not known what form it would take. The galaxy had rejected them, mocked them, and tried to keep them out of its affairs. But now that same galaxy needed them. "Lisa, tell the Council that Earth accepts their request for assistance," Jake said. "We will deploy immediately." "Jake," Lisa said quietly, "you should know that most of the alien fleets have been destroyed or scattered. Whatever you bring, it might be all that stands between these harbingers and total galactic destruction." Jake nodded slowly. "Then we better make it count." As the communication ended, the command center fell silent. Everyone understood the weight of what they were about to attempt. 40 human ships against an enemy that had destroyed fleets 10 times their size. It should have been hopeless. But humans had never been good at accepting hopeless situations. They had built their entire civilization on the idea that impossible odds were just another challenge to overcome. And now they would find out if that stubborn refusal to quit would be enough to save not just themselves but the entire galaxy. Admiral Jake Sullivan looked out at the stars through the command center's main window. Somewhere out there, an ancient evil was spreading death and destruction across the cosmos. In a few hours, he would lead humanity's small fleet into battle against that evil. He had never felt more proud to be human. Captain Ryan Carter gripped the controls of his ship, the UES Defiance, as it dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Geneva system. What he saw through the main screen made his blood run cold. The colony world that had once been home to 3 million beings was now surrounded by the black ships of the Harbingers. "Sir, we are detecting massive energy discharges from the planet's surface," his communications officer reported. "The Harbingers are attacking the civilian population centers." Ryan had been ordered to gather intelligence and report back to Earth. His mission was to observe the enemy and learn their tactics, not to engage in combat. But as he watched the orbital bombardment destroying cities full of innocent people, he knew he could not just sit and watch. "How many refugee ships are trying to escape?" he asked. Lieutenant Ben Parker, his tactical officer, checked his sensors. "I count at least 50 civilian vessels attempting to reach the jump points. But the Harbingers have positioned their ships to block all escape routes. The refugees are trapped." Ryan looked at the tactical display showing the human fleet. 40 ships against hundreds of Harbinger vessels. The smart thing to do would be to retreat and report what they had learned. The safe thing to do would be to follow orders and preserve their forces for a more important battle. But Ryan had not joined the military to make smart or safe decisions. He had joined to protect people who could not protect themselves. "All ships." "This is Captain Carter," he said into his communication system. "We have civilians under attack down there. I am ordering a rescue operation." "Sir," Lieutenant Parker said quietly, "our orders were to observe only. Admiral Sullivan will not be happy if we engage the enemy without authorization." "The Admiral can court-martial me later," Ryan replied. "Right now, those people need our help, and we are the only ones who can give it to them." The human fleet moved toward the refugee ships, their approach immediately detected by the Harbinger forces. The alien machines responded exactly as they had in previous battles, forming efficient attack formations and preparing to destroy the newcomers with overwhelming firepower. But the humans did not attack in the way the Harbingers expected. Instead of forming neat battle lines or coordinated formations, the human ships scattered in all directions like a flock of startled birds. Each ship chose its own path, its own target, its own tactics. Captain Lucy Martinez, commanding the UES Independence, dove her ship toward the planet's surface, flying so close to the ground that her hull scraped the tops of buildings. The Harbinger ships trying to follow her were forced to break off their attack, as they could not match her reckless maneuvers without crashing. Commander Nick Thompson, flying the UES Vengeance, did something that no sane pilot would attempt. He shut down his main engines and used his maneuvering thrusters to make his ship tumble end over end like a piece of debris. The Harbinger targeting systems designed to track ships moving in predictable patterns lost lock on his wildly spinning vessel. The Harbingers tried to adapt to these new tactics, but they faced a problem they had never encountered before. Every human ship was doing something different. There was no pattern to learn, no system to understand. Each captain was making decisions based on instinct, emotion, and pure stubborn creativity. Dr. Amanda Foster had been right. The Harbingers were learning machines, but they could only learn from logical, predictable behavior. Human tactics were neither logical nor predictable. "This is insane," Lieutenant Parker said as he watched the tactical display. "Half our ships are flying patterns that should be impossible. How are they not crashing into each other?" "Because they are not following any plan," Ryan replied, grinning despite the danger. "They are just reacting to what they see. The Harbingers cannot predict what we will do because we do not know what we will do." The rescue operation turned into a chaotic ballet of human ships weaving between the much larger Harbinger vessels. The enemy's superior firepower meant nothing when they could not get a clear shot at targets that moved like drunken flies. Captain Martinez used her ship's cargo bay to ram through the side of a damaged Harbinger cruiser, creating an opening for the refugee ships to escape through. Commander Thompson fired his missiles not at enemy ships, but at asteroids, using the debris to create a screen that blocked the Harbinger's sensors. The most daring rescue came from Lieutenant Sarah Collins, commanding the smallest ship in the human fleet. She flew directly into the middle of a Harbinger formation, ejecting her ship's entire fuel supply as she went. When Captain Carter fired a single kinetic round at the fuel cloud, the explosion disabled 6 enemy ships at once. "Sir, the refugee ships are clear," Lieutenant Parker reported. "All civilian vessels have reached the jump points and are escaping to safe systems." Ryan looked at his tactical display. The human fleet had saved over 200,000 lives, and they had done it without losing a single ship. The Harbingers, meanwhile, had lost dozens of vessels to tactics that should not have worked. "All ships withdraw to the rally point," Ryan ordered. "We have done what we came to do." As the human fleet retreated, the Harbingers did not pursue. Their programming told them to analyze what had just happened, to understand how their superior technology had been defeated by such primitive opponents. But there was nothing to understand. The humans had won through pure chaos, and chaos could not be programmed or predicted. News of the rescue spread through the refugee networks faster than light. For the first time since the Harbinger invasion began, civilians had been saved from certain death. The stories grew with each telling, but the core truth remained the same. The humans, the species that had been banned from galactic military service, had just accomplished what no other fleet had managed. On the Corinthian homeworld, the insect-like creatures that had mocked humanity's military capabilities were now analyzing video recordings of the battle. Their military experts watched in amazement as human ships performed maneuvers that violated every principle of space combat they had ever learned. "How did they coordinate those attacks without a central command system?" one expert asked. Their ships were acting independently, but they still managed to work together. "It is their emotional decision-making," another replied. "We thought it was a weakness, but they have turned it into a strength. They react to situations in ways our computers cannot model." In the crystal spires of the ethereal collective, beings of pure energy were having similar conversations. They had spent centuries perfecting their logical, efficient military tactics. But logic and efficiency meant nothing against opponents, who threw logic out the window and relied on instinct instead. Commander Vexitar received the reports while his remaining ships retreated from another failed engagement with the Harbingers. The proud Zeltharian warrior who had spoken so confidently about human weakness now found himself studying human tactics with desperate interest. "Sir, the humans saved over 200,000 lives at New Geneva," his aide reported. "They engaged a force 10 times their size and suffered no casualties." Vexter stared at the tactical analysis, trying to understand how such a thing was possible. Every simulation his computers ran showed that the human fleet should have been destroyed within minutes. But the humans had not followed any pattern that could be simulated. "Send a message to Admiral Sullivan on Earth," Vexitar ordered. "Tell him that the Galactic Defense Force formally requests tactical cooperation with human forces." His aide looked confused. Sir, should I mention the ban on human military participation? The ban is officially suspended, Vextar replied. We need all the help we can get, and the humans have just proven that they might be the only ones who can fight these machines effectively. Back on Earth, Admiral Jake Sullivan was reviewing the battle reports when the message from Vextar arrived. He read it twice, hardly believing what he was seeing. The same alien who had called humans too primitive for military service was now asking for their help. Dr. Amanda Foster entered his office carrying a thick folder of analysis reports. Admiral, I have been studying the engagement at New Geneva. The results confirm my theories about unconventional tactics. The Harbingers cannot adapt to completely random behavior patterns. How random can we be and still accomplish our objectives? Jake asked. Amanda smiled, the expression making her look younger than her years. Admiral, I think we are about to find out. The galaxy has given us permission to fight this war our way. And our way has always been to do the impossible. Jake nodded, feeling a familiar sense of determination settling over him. The humans had been underestimated, dismissed, and banned from participating in galactic defense. But now they were the galaxy's best hope for survival. It was time to show everyone what humanity could really do when they stopped trying to be like everyone else and started being themselves. The Nexus Station was the most important target in the galaxy. Built at the center of the major trade routes, it served as the communication hub for every civilized world. If the Harbingers captured it, they could cut off all contact between the surviving fleets and coordinate their final assault on the remaining populated systems. Admiral Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Liberty, watching the massive space station through the main display. Around Nexus Station, the combined fleets of a dozen alien species were making their last desperate stand. Zeltharian ships flew alongside Corinthian vessels, while ethereal collective energy beings coordinated attacks with the crystalline warriors of the hierarchy. It was the largest gathering of galactic military power in recorded history. And they were losing. Sir, the alien fleets have lost 30% of their strength in the last hour, Lieutenant Katie Williams reported from her station. The Harbingers are adapting to their combined tactics faster than expected. Jake nodded, grimly. Even working together, the alien species still fought according to the same basic principles. Their ships moved in coordinated formations, their weapons fired in calculated patterns, and their strategies followed logical military doctrine. The Harbingers were learning to counter all of it at once. Colonel Murphy, are our forces ready? Jake asked. Colonel Steve Murphy, commanding the human fleet's ground forces, checked his displays. All ships loaded with Marines and ready for boarding action, sir, though I have to say what we are planning has never been attempted before. Good, Jake replied. If it had been attempted before, the Harbingers would know how to stop it. The human fleet consisted of 60 ships, still tiny compared to the thousands of alien vessels in the system. But size had never been humanity's advantage. Their advantage was their willingness to try things that no sane military commander would ever consider. All human ships, this is Admiral Sullivan, Jake said into his communication system. We are going to save that station and everyone on it, but we are not going to do it by playing by their rules. We are going to do something completely insane, and we are going to make it work through pure stubbornness. Captain Ryan Carter, now commanding a squadron of fighters, grinned as he heard the Admiral's voice. Sir, what are your orders? Ryan, take your fighters and attack the Harbinger command ship directly. Do not try to disable it. Ram it if you have to. Our job is to create chaos, not to follow proper military procedure. The human attack began like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of forming battle lines or coordinated formations, the human ships scattered in every direction like a swarm of angry hornets. Some ships flew directly at the largest Harbinger vessels, others dove toward the station itself, and a few seemed to be flying random patterns that made no tactical sense. Lieutenant Katie Williams, now serving as a tactical coordinator aboard one of the rescue ships, watched the battle unfold on her screens while guiding civilian evacuation efforts. This is incredible, she said to herself. It looks like complete chaos, but somehow it is working. The Harbingers tried to respond to the human attack, but their logical programming could not process what they were seeing. Human ships were ignoring obvious tactical advantages, flying into situations that should have been certain death, and somehow surviving through pure unpredictability. Captain Lucy Martinez flew her ship directly through the explosion of a destroyed Harbinger cruiser, using the debris field as cover while she launched her entire complement of Marines at an enemy boarding craft. The Marines, led by Sergeant Tom Wilson, fought their way through the alien ship using tactics that would have made their instructors fail them in training. Instead of securing corridors and establishing defensive positions, the human Marines moved like water, flowing around obstacles and attacking from unexpected directions. The Harbinger defense systems, designed to counter organized military assaults, could not track targets that moved with such random determination. The turning point came when Admiral Jake Sullivan made a decision that would be talked about for generations. His flagship was heavily damaged, its weapons offline and its engines failing. Any reasonable commander would have ordered evacuation and retreat to a safe distance. Instead, Jake ordered his ship to ram the massive Harbinger command vessel. "Sir, that is suicide," his navigation officer protested. "No," Jake replied calmly. "That is human." The Liberty, all 50,000 tons of human engineering and determination, slammed into the side of the Harbinger mothership at full speed. The impact tore both vessels apart, but Jake had programmed the ship's communication system to broadcast on all frequencies as they died. The message was simple: human military access codes, tactical frequencies, and coordination signals. Information that would normally be classified beyond top secret was being transmitted across the galaxy for anyone to hear. But the real message was not in the technical data. The real message was in the act itself. Jake Sullivan, the human admiral who had been told his species was too primitive for military service, had just sacrificed his life to give the galaxy a chance to survive. The destruction of the Harbinger command ship sent chaos through their fleet. Without central coordination, the learning machines began operating on individual programming, making them predictable for the first time since the invasion began. Colonel Steve Murphy, now the ranking human officer, seized the opportunity. "All ships, the Admiral has given us our opening. Time to finish this fight." The human fleet threw everything they had at the disorganized Harbinger forces. Ships with damaged engines used their momentum as weapons. Crews with broken weapon systems rammed their vessels into enemy craft. Marines with no ammunition fought hand-to-hand with artificial beings that had never encountered such desperate courage. The battle was recorded by every functioning camera on Nexus Station. News crews, security systems, and personal devices captured the final hour of the fight from dozens of angles. The footage showed human beings doing impossible things through sheer force of will. Captain Ryan Carter, his fighter heavily damaged, flew directly into the main cannon of a Harbinger battleship, jamming his ship into the barrel and causing the weapon to explode when it tried to fire. Lieutenant Sarah Collins used her ship's gravity generator to create a miniature black hole that sucked 3 enemy vessels into destruction. But the image that would be remembered forever was Admiral Jake Sullivan's final charge. The video showed the Liberty, battered and burning, accelerating toward certain death while broadcasting humanity's gift to the galaxy. The explosion lit up space like a new star, and in that light the tide of battle finally turned. The combined alien fleets, inspired by the human sacrifice and guided by the tactical information Jake had transmitted, pressed their attack with renewed determination. The Harbingers, still adapting to human chaos, could not adjust quickly enough to face organized alien forces, using human-inspired unpredictable tactics. Within 6 hours, the Harbinger fleet was destroyed. The ancient machines that had terrorized the galaxy for months were reduced to drifting metal and dark energy. The invasion was over. The video of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than any news story in history. Every world, every species, every individual with access to communication networks saw the same footage. They saw human ships flying, impossible missions. They saw human crews fighting with weapons that should not have worked. They saw Admiral Jake Sullivan giving his life to save beings who had rejected and mocked his people. Ambassador Lisa Martinez was in the Galactic Council chambers when the final battle reports arrived. The same aliens who had voted to ban humanity from military service now sat in stunned silence as they watched the recordings of human heroism. Commander Vexitar, his own ship damaged but still functional, stood to address the council. "I was wrong," he said simply. "We were all wrong. The humans did not fight like us because they are better than us. They do not think like us because their thoughts are braver than ours. Today, they saved us all." The council voted unanimously to not only remove the ban on human military participation, but to offer humanity a permanent seat on the Defense Command Council. The same species they had called too primitive to serve would now help lead the galaxy's defense forces. But the real change was not in the official votes or formal ceremonies. The real change was in the way the galaxy looked at the small blue planet called Earth. They had seen what humans could do when they stopped trying to be like everyone else and started being themselves. The video of Admiral Sullivan's sacrifice became the most watched recording in galactic history. Children across 100 worlds grew up seeing human courage as the standard to aspire to. Military academies added human tactical doctrine to their curricula, and whenever someone said that something was impossible, others would reply with a simple phrase that became famous throughout the stars. "Tell that to the humans."